This is the language Simp, and he makes these language reviews. I haven't checked the Vietnamese one, so get ready. Let's go.
Xin chào mọi người và chào mừng đến với tập 10 của Language Review. Tên mình là ngôn ngữ Simp và mình đến từ Mỹ. Hôm nay chúng ta sẽ bàn về tiếng Việt, otherwise formerly known as Spicy Chinese, Bang Mi language, Ho Chi Minhese, Texas Asian, or Nguyen language. This is the 16th episode of Language Review, a series where I go through the languages of the world and review them, sort of like a film critic or a video game reviewer, but for languages,
I wonder if he was cosplaying Hassan Piker there for a moment.
specifically from the perspective of a language learner. I'll discuss who speaks them, their grammar, their difficulty, and tons of other things before finally giving them an official Language Simp certified rating on the Simp scale. If you enjoy this video, let me know which language you'd like me to review next, and without further ado, Batao Toy.
Sicilian, do Sicilian.
I love Vietnamese so much. It's the best type of Chinese food. I could eat pho every day.
It's not pronounced like that, you uncultured American. Vietnamese is a language, not just a food. Vietnam is a country.
Oh, like the Vietnam War.
Ugh, there's so much more to Vietnam than the tragic Chien Chang Chong Mỹ Cơ Nước. This video is about the language, not just one horrible moment in history. Vietnamese is a language spoken in Texas, a rugged, beautiful state that is home to over 1.5 million Vietnamese-speaking NPCs. Somehow, it's the third most spoken language there after American and Mexican. So many tourists, mainly from Germany, actually come to Texas to roleplay as cows in order to be lassoed by jacked Vietnamese cowboys. And Vietnamese is also spoken in Vietnam, a gorgeous country in Southeast Asia, home to the strongest and most persevering people in the universe. First, they were colonized by the Baguette people, then occupied by the anime people, then war with America, and then they faced off against China. And after surviving all of that, Vietnam in the modern day is a remarkable place, home to a patriotic people, vibrant culture, breathtaking natural beauty with Asian unicorns running around, awe-inspiring history, tons of communism, and of course, really good food.
Do they have communism in Vietnam? I actually haven't got a clue, to be honest. Why is Obama in this video?
Just ask former Senator Barack Obama.
No, wait,
Vietnamese
what?
and of course, really good food. Just ask former Senator Barack Obama. Vietnam is one of my favorite countries, and I would do anything, and I mean anything right now, for a combo Cơm Thô Gà Nam.
Yeah, I do like Vietnamese food, I'll be honest. We do get some homemade Vietnamese food because my wife has a friend who's Vietnamese. And sometimes when they make food, they also give my wife some, and then my wife brings it home, so I get to eat it as well. Have you ever tried Vietnamese coffee, by the way? If you thought Italian coffee was strong, you haven't got a clue.
From Bami King, Vietnam Mua Nam. I've actually been to Vietnam myself, but sadly only in Hanoi. I chose to go there mainly because Hanoi was an amazing map on Call of Duty Black Ops 1. And it sort of looked the same IRL, but the COD developers forgot to add all the women on every street begging to massage me. But holy fuck, I had so much fun riding and crashing those motorbikes, and standing next to the Lenin statue was a fever dream for a freedom-loving American like me.
Why do they have a Lenin statue? Oh, goodness gracious.
I'm no communist, but 20 dong is 20 dong. I love dong. You can also find a sizable number of speakers nearby Vietnam in Cambodia, Laos, as well as Kangaroo, England. And Vietnamese is surprisingly a recognized minority language in the Czech Republic of all places. So with roughly 100 million NPCs speaking it worldwide, learning Vietnamese will unlock you a pretty respectable amount of DLC.
Yeah.
But not everyone in Vietnam speaks the same brand of Vietnamese.
Of course not.
There are a billion different accents that vary greatly from town to town along this tall noodle of a country. So the best, most simple way for a Thai ngu like me to describe them is to break them up into three major regions. Northern Vietnamese, or Tieng Bac, and specifically what is spoken in the capital Hanoi, is the basis for standard Vietnamese. This is what they teach in schools, and it's also what you'll hear in news broadcasts.
So a bit like Putonghua in Mandarin China, standard Chinese, that is based on the Beijing dialect, but not the equivalent to, in fact, the vernacular of the city, but kind of a bit more refined, artificially standardized language, probably, yeah.
And I nickname it Asian German because it's rule-based and by the book. It's
Really?
the most structured and formal dialect, largely because it comes from the historic center of the government in Hanoi. So
Okay.
it sounds authoritative, and unlike other dialects, they actually tend to pronounce the ends of their words, which is good for learners. Next, we have South Vietnamese, or Tieng Nam, which is the most popular dialect spoken by the most NPCs in Vietnam. I call it Asian Jamaican, as it's very smooth and soft, and it's got more of a chill, flowy, relaxed vibe to it. It's mainly centered around the biggest city in the country, Ho Chi Minh City, or is it called Saigon? It's officially Ho Chi Minh City, but everyone still seems to call it Saigon. Which is it? I'm just going to call it Asian Chicago until someone clarifies. Asian Chicago is the
Asian Chicago. That is actually a common occurrence. It happens a lot. And it usually happens in contexts where a city has an original name, but then official governing bodies, sometimes this happens during regime changes, but I'm not going to go into that, decide, no, we're going to call it this now. But the population maintains the original name in informal speech and only uses the sort of appropriate name, if you will, or the, you shouldn't even say appropriate name, but the correct name in formal situations like TV and stuff like that. This happens, and if you think about it, it's not that strange that a city has multiple names, because, I mean, Istanbul used to be Constantinople, which used to be Byzantium. It's all the same city. 3 names. And I imagine that when Byzantium became Constantinople, there were still people calling it Byzantium for a certain period of time. This happens with roads as well. You go to Naples any time of the year, and you go to what is Via Roma, everyone calls it Via Toledo, because that's the old name, even though, or it's the other way around, I don't even remember now. But anyways, there's this major artery in Naples that has double name, the official name, which is written everywhere, and then the name that Neapolitans actually use. It's how it is.
cultural and financial hub of Vietnam, so the southern accent is what you'll typically hear in movies, TV shows, music, and business.
Really?
This is also what you'll hear most in Texas, as many people from the capitalistic South during the war naturally fled to one of the most capitalistic places on Earth. And finally, we have Central Vietnamese, or Tieng Trung, which is home to the most diverse and extreme accents, which are often hard to understand even for other Vietnamese NPCs. So I call it Chinese, because that's what we call things we can't understand in America. Speakers in the center get real wonky with strong pitch bends and glottalization. Like in Hue, it sounds like they stop mid-syllable and almost glitch out, sort of coughing before finishing a vowel. And in places like Nga An and Ha Ting, the dialects are extremely nasal and flat, almost sounding like a different language entirely. Central Vietnamese is hard mode Vietnamese, and you should learn it if you hate yourself. So for the rest of the video, unless otherwise stated, I'll be focusing on the northern, standard Hanoi variation of the language. But don't worry.
It's interesting because Bak must be the word for north, which the only reason why I assume that, of course, apart from the geographic location, but I'm saying it must mean north, because the other two names that were connected, south and center, actually sound a bit like Mandarin, because in Mandarin, south is Nan, and that one was like Nam with an M, and center is Zhong, or central, which kind of sounded like the way it was spelled. So it must all mean north, center, and south.
When you're in Vietnam, they will tone down their specific accent to help you understand. And if you want to go to Vietnam or pretty much anywhere else, you should really check out Saily, who I'd like to thank for sponsoring this video. Saily is a new
We're going to play it, but I'm going to speed it up.
eSIM service app that offers you several affordable eSIM plans in a growing number of destinations, allowing you to easily get connection abroad or even in your home country. I travel a lot, and I used to waste so much money going through my carrier for data, but now Saily saves me money, time, and I don't have to trust some random guy on the phone to activate my data when I arrive. Saily is so much more convenient than buying a physical SIM card. It takes barely any time to set up, and it allows me to use my phone reliably right when I land. And right now, you can get an exclusive 15% discount on Saily eSIM data plans. Download the Saily app or scan the code on screen and use code LANGUAGE SIMP at checkout. Looking for SIM cards in shady stores abroad is a nightmare, and now instead of desperately running around looking for public Wi-Fi like a beta soy boy, you can install the Saily eSIM and you won't even have to install a new one for each country. Saily is compatible for both iOS and Android devices, and if your device happens to not be compatible, they'll give you a full refund. Get an exclusive 15% discount on Saily eSIM data plans today. Download the Saily app and use code LANGUAGE SIMP at checkout or scan the code on screen to get started today. It's time to talk about the writing system. The Vietnamese language used to be written in a system of Chinese characters, literal works of art, but then some Portuguese missionaries showed up. Oh my goodness, everyone just stay out of Vietnam. They never could catch a break. And these Portuguese guys made a Latin alphabet for the language, which the Wee Wee Baguette people took and forced them to use. So nowadays, Vietnamese is written written in a funky adaptation of the American alphabet with 29 letters instead of the normal 26. But don't worry, thankfully, all of the letters are straightforward. What sound do you think this R makes? Say it out loud.
All right, guys, what do you think? It could be a rolled R. It could be the alveolar R. It could be, if it's similar to some R's at the beginning of words in Chinese, it could be Z. Or if it's similar to the R at the end of Northern Chinese, it could be basically the American R almost. What should be like P?
So close. It's actually a Z sound. Okay. So a word that looks like rat is pronounced zat. What about...
Right. Well, no, I didn't guess it. But maybe it's sort of connected to the fact that some R in Mandarin do sound like a Z, like a J a little bit, like ren, 中国人, ren. Well, usually it's at the beginning of words, though.
What about this one? No tricks here. Just say it. Wrong. It's not a D. You just blow in from Stupid Town. This is also a Z sound. So a word like day is pronounced zai. And I'm not talking about Asian Chicago here. I know you guys in the South turn the D into a Y, and come to think of it, Dien Gua Do. Alright, now look at this emo body modified D with a stick in its side. Okay. No, it's not a Z, silly goose. This is the real D. It makes the D sound. And then the X makes an S sound, but don't worry, the S also sounds like an S.
Right, but this in Mandarin, for instance, I know I keep doing comparisons because it's the only other language that is close to that section of the world that I speak. These are also two S sounds in Mandarin. It's just that this is frontal and this one is retracted, halfway retracted, in fact. I wonder if that's what this is, because if it is the case, then it's actually normal for that area.
So everything is okay. Yeah, thankfully all of these letters are pronounced pretty much exactly how you'd think they would be. And then these letters are very close, but you gotta be careful with them. They don't explode like American letters. Sweaty linguistic grinders call them unaspirated consonants, but I like to say they don't go boom. Yep. So instead of ka, 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 you gotta go ga, ga, ga. Keep it unexploded.
Yeah, believe it or not, that would be easier for me because as an Italian speaker, we do not have aspirated sounds at all. So the entire language is unaspirated. That's how you do an Italian accent if you really want to do it, actually. Because I had to learn to say pick, doing the p, pick, or trip with a, well, maybe trip is not a great example, but ticket, that is a good example. So the tr, the pr, that it's natural to Anglophone speakers, it's not natural to me. And so if I didn't learn, the way I would pronounce it is ticket. It's a T, ticket, because we don't aspirate in Italian at all. The tr doesn't exist. Likewise, instead of Pac-Man with a P, I would say Pac-Man. So you can tell where the Italian accent comes from a lot of the times. This is also vowels and intonation, and of course we roll our R's. But we do not have that kind of explosive sound. So to me, that's actually, oh yeah, but finally, I have to do like Patterson, P, yeah, Patterson.
And there are way too many vowels with slight mutations and differences in pronunciation. Cool. Like there are 3 A's. The naked A makes the noise you make when a doctor checks your throat. Ah. While the A with a bowl on top makes a higher pitched A, which strains my masculinity. Ah. And then the A with the traditional Vietnamese cone hat makes the sound. At least there's only 2 E's, but I can't really tell the difference between them. There are also 3 O's.
If he can't tell the difference between them, I'm going to guess it's a difference in quality, not quantity. Because quantity usually can be noticed even by untrained ears, but differences in quality, unless you're trained, you don't usually notice them. And what I mean by that is that if the difference is versus I think everyone can notice it. Although then again, in fast conversation, usually these differences are slight. Because to a native ear, even if you ever so slightly extend the length of the duration of any single word, vowel, even vowel cluster, you will still be able to pick it, to notice it. But when it's qualitative, the difference between and might be difficult for people to perceive.
Two U's, including variations where they have curly fries sticking out of them.
Wow.
But Vi, I'll crash out and delete my channel if I try to pronounce them all on video. I probably butchered most of that. But can you blame me? Learning how to pronounce Vietnamese is about as easy as trying to cross the street in Vietnam, which is impossible. There are a million little say mais, and they don't stop for beta soy boy wojak pedestrians like you and me, so you gotta weave through them like a little spider and try not to get squashed.
Sounds like Southern Italy.
I'm gifted, so I only hit like 6 American tourists during my 2 weeks in Hanoi.
Wow.
But if somehow you survive crossing the road, you still will not survive the onslaught of letter combinations which make completely different noises than what you literally just learned from the alphabet. I won't go through them all, but what do you think this letter pair sounds like? G-I. G? G? G-A? No, it's Z.
Oh, with
when
the
in
Zs.
doubt, just remember that everything in this language is a Z. And what
Yeah.
about this one? NG. This is actually easy. It's like the NG in sing. Sing.
Okay.
But they often put it at the front of words, which
Yeah, that makes it difficult. It's a nasalized sound.
should be illegal, like in the word người, which means person. Người, người, người. I actually really like that. But oh boy, when they start putting these letters
It's
with
cool.
mutations together, I just lose my mind. And you might be wondering, what is that rod on top of the O in người? Ah, who cares? Just ignore it. It's not important.
You can't ignore it. That's a tone marker. Vietnamese has tones.
Oh, so now you're an expert. Fine. Vietnamese has tones, but at least they're clearly marked on each word. If you're studying a different tonal language like Thai, you just gotta guess the tone. And with Chinese, you gotta decipher hieroglyphics and then guess if it goes flat, up, down, or down, up. The
Or read pinyin.
Vietnamese language has a whopping 6 tones. That's one
Wow.
more than Chinese. And to put it into perspective,
Wait, one more than Chinese? Absolutely not. So he's one of those who believes that Mandarin has 5 tones. Yeah, that's nonsense. Mandarin has 4 tones. I know that there are books that say Mandarin has 5 tones, and it's nonsense. Because you know what the 5th tone is? The lack of a tone. Literally, Mandarin has first tone, second tone, third tone, fourth tone, and then syllables that do not have any tone. I don't get that. It's ridiculous to consider the lack of a tone. Come on.
that's 6 more than Afrikaans. The first tone is a mid-flat level tone, and there's no symbol for it. This is what you'll use when a word is naked, and it's pronounced like ma.
Okay.
The second tone is a low falling tone that is denoted by a water slide going down. For this one, you have to pretend like you're depressed and make it go down, like ma. The third tone is a high rising tone denoted by a ladder going up. And you gotta get a little fruity and loosey-goosey to make this one. It goes up like ma.
It sounds a bit like the tones in Mandarin up to this point. We'll see if there is something that isn't present. I wonder if the note you hit in your pitch is also determinant on which tone it is, like in Cantonese, or if it doesn't matter as much, like in Mandarin. It does matter when they influence each other, but I don't want to go into too deep of a discussion about tones.
The fourth tone is denoted by this super aesthetic hook on top, and it does a little dip and then rises. It's basically broken in the middle. It's like a question mark that goes up and curves around, like ma?
A bit like the academic third tone in Mandarin that no one actually uses.
And actually, this is the tone on the word faux. It's not faux, it's pho. But this next one is a squiggly...
Yeah, but she did it more like the real third tone in Mandarin, so I don't think we should, consider this as comedy, but it's probably not a good introduction to tones, because now that I heard the actual sound, it sounded like the half third tone in Mandarin, which does not rise.
Caterpillar, and the only way to describe this is that it sounds like a dying sheep. This one's so fun. It's pronounced like ma. And the best part is that the word for America in Vietnamese uses this tone. Mỹ, God bless Mỹ. And the last tone is very low and short, denoted by a little period below the vowel. And it just sounds like a little grunt to me. You gotta get low with your e-boy morning voice and just be like, ma. Aber pass auf, Digga, these tones can get you in a lot of trouble if you mess them up.
Yeah, let's
Take
see.
the word L, O with the hat, N. If you put a E-boy dot tone underneath it, you're just saying you messed up. But if you accidentally put the water slide on top, woohoo, yippee! This is a PG channel, so I'm not gonna say what that means.
Uh-oh.
I genuinely have no idea how Vietnamese NPCs string all these noises and tones together and understand each other without subtitles. And even just sounding out words is hard, because letters can have hats, but then there can be an accent marker on the hat. It's a busy yet calculated fustercluck. Vietnamese is impossible to pronounce.
And it sounds super ugly. It's the
No.
ugliest language in the world.
I actually think it sounds nice for the few times that I heard it, but I am a little primed for liking Far Eastern and even Southeastern, the Asian languages. I just kind of like them in general. But, it's funny because in my university, when I was taking Japanese major and Mandarin minor, it's funny because there were these students were like me, minority, I guess. We liked everything. But then there were the groups. Those that really, really liked Japanese absolutely hated Chinese. And those that really, really liked Chinese, I'm talking about the language, they did not even want to hear Japanese. I wonder why that was a thing.
You don't even know how it sounds. Shut up.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, I do. Watch, I'll say something in it.
Okay, you will hear a lot of that in Vietnam. And it's true that many articles, videos, and Reddit threads will say that Vietnamese is the ugliest language
that
on
was
the planet.
funny.
But I promise you that those people are delusional, uncultured NPCs.
Redditors,
Because
yeah.
of the tones, crazy vowels, and most words only having one syllable, Vietnamese does sound pretty choppy and foreign to most ears. And believe me, I get it. I watched a Vietnamese water puppet show in Hanoi before I knew one single word. I know just how wild it can get. It's one of a kind. It has personality, and I promise that if you get used to it, you'll start to hear its beauty. Yeah,
Cool.
the words don't flow together in a gay way like French, and it's not as rhythmic as Italian, but give it a
Thank you.
chance. I personally think it's gorgeous, sort of like a roller coaster of sounds and pitches that blend together rather nicely. And I adore Vietnamese music. There are so many bangers that come out of Vietnam, including a TikTok masterpiece that you've all heard. Giây phút em gặp anh là em biết em si ting, ting 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 tang tang ting tang
Ting 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 tang tang tang.
and I love Vu Tang Van and Min. Oh my goodness, the part
No
that
idea.
Min sings in Vietnamese and the remix of Girls Like Me Don't Cry is so good. And I especially love Vinh Hoat, whose song Qua Lo has been stuck in my head for over a year. Anh đã thực sự yêu em quá lo, không cho em được nữa đâu.
Never heard this
Vietnamese
stuff.
people claim that my accent sounds better when I sing. Does this sound native? Cho mọi người tên tôi là ngọn ngữ Simp và tôi tên tu.
The reason why we all tend to, by the way, sound better when we sing a language, when it's a foreign language, it's because we are mimicking the sound because we're singing along. So we're literally going up and down when they go up and down, and it makes it a little easier. What's really difficult, it's like easy mode. What's really difficult is to actually sound good, or I'm not going to say native-like, but similar to a native when you actually speak, because you have to produce your own sentences. That's the thing.
Yeah, ngôn ngữ simp is how you'd say language simp in Vietnamese.
Wow.
Way better than Yizaka voice simp. Blah.
Yeah.
But the first word that everyone should learn when they start with this language is which means in. So to say in Vietnam, you say Vietnam. For the most part, Vietnamese vocab is based and Asian pilled. In fact, a lot of words come from Middle Chinese. You could
Yeah.
almost call Vietnamese Asian Latin. And the most
I
common
see.
greeting is ciao, which feels oddly like pasta language.
Yes.
But I don't know, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
The
You'll
pasta.
usually hear it as xin chao, as sin is a politeness marker. The Vietnamese language is extremely polite, almost as polite as Canadians were before Người ta Kham threatened to annex them.
Well, I would say before they went full communist on us, but that's just me. I guess we all have a different perspective, don't we?
So there are a bazillion different pronouns, and you'll have to switch between these constantly depending on who you're talking to, or
Okay.
else you will get your ass kicked. You
Yeah.
have to be constantly doing advanced trick.
If there is a situation with pronouns, then I think the Canadian connection was fit.
Trigonometry to determine your age and relation to everyone you speak to. But I have a solution.
Yeah.
Just call everyone Nguyen because chances are that's their name.
Well, if they're so polite, how do they say thank you?
Yeah.
Come on, you know this.
I really don't. Please tell me.
Come on, come on. The way to say thank you in Vietnamese is literally come on, or if you're trying, come on. And it's funny because I remember all the
that's
silly
great.
lost Australian gringos at Circle K in Hanoi being like, come on, mate. Not even making the slightest effort like us Americans do. You know, we'd all be saying,
Cảm ơn.
because we're amazing with languages. Thankfully, Vietnamese people are very progressive, so their language has no genders. But instead of gender,
wow.
they have classifiers that go before a noun.
That's not a good analogy. If they are very progressive, they would have thousands of the genders. Am I right?
Such as con, which is used for animals. So the word for cat is male, but to say a cat, you'd say một con mèo, or one animal classifier, cat. And they've got
Typical.
a ton of these, including noun classifiers for long objects, flat objects, round objects, books, containers, and
The
even
Book of Mormon. What was that, the book? Oh my gosh, this guy. Oh, this guy makes me laugh. So anyways, this is common, by the way. The classifier, I already had to go through it in Japanese, and I've been going through it in Mandarin. All these languages have this thing. When you're counting, the pronunciation of the number changes depending on the shape of the object you're counting. It's insane, and apparently it's something that it was so popular every freaking Asian language does it. I'm going to skip to the end because we usually don't react to the entire thing. Definitely, I always skip the grammar part. It's just a thing. And I want to see what he's going to say at the very end. Let's go.
I could talk about Vietnamese forever, but Tet, or Vietnamese Lunar New Year, is coming soon,
okay.
and I want to get this video out well before then.
Makes
so
sense.
It's time to give the Vietnamese language an official
Let's guess it.
language Simp certified rating on the Simp scale.
What do you guys think? I think he's going to go for either Alpha or Giga Chad, knowing him. Man, I don't know. Oh, no, if you love grammar, that's good. It gives you incentive to go watch his original video and give him the interaction. So to me, that's actually good. It's just my way of not reacting to the entire thing. It's just what I do. So anyways, let me see. I think I'm gonna guess Giga Chad. I think he's gonna go for Giga Chad. Because if he goes for beta, I'm going to be like, okay, what video did I watch? He gave Giga Chad to what? Obviously Arabic, because he's infatuated with everything Middle Eastern, this guy.
On a scale of dog water to Giga Chad, I place Vietnamese solidly in the Giga Chad
I freaking know it. Man, I guess it every time. This guy is an open book.
tier. I love the Vietnamese language,
cool.
and I think it's the perfect tonal Asian language for learners to study. Honestly, I think it brutally mogs Chinese. You're telling me that there's a tonal language that sounds cooler than Chinese, spoken in one of the sickest countries ever, and it's written in the American alphabet with tones clearly denoted right on the words? How does everyone not learn this? Okay, sure, you don't unlock as much DLC as you would with Chinese, but every quirked up white boy with a GoPro learns Chinese. Vietnamese is such a fun language, and Texas is an epic DLC region. You'll rip your hair out trying to memorize all the pronouns.
Come on, Baron, you got to learn it. You're in tech, you got to learn it.
And make sense of the tones, but I'm rapidly balding already. It's 2026. Hair is overrated. Honestly, talking about Vietnamese in this video is making me kind of sad. I really need to improve my Vietnamese.
do it.
I need to make more Vietnamese friends, and I definitely need to return to Vietnam, this time for longer. And that's the video. If you want to discover the best...
Cool stuff. Yeah, no, it's actually very interesting. You know what? After 2 Asian languages, I don't think I'm going to go for a third, I'm going to be honest with you, because it was a lot of work and a lot of hours, and I'm not even done with Mandarin. I do feel I'm done with Japanese, to be honest. If I were to go masochistic route, would I go for Vietnamese? Either Vietnamese or Korean, probably. I think. But since I'm not into the Korean pop stars and drama, maybe Vietnamese could be cool, actually. And then I could go to Texas, finally, and communicate with people. All right, that was fantastic. Let's move to the next one.